Welcome to the High Voltage Light Electric Vehicle channel. This is e-bike triumphs and disasters, and this is a new section of the channel where we look at people's stories of e-biking, the good, the bad, the ugly. If you have stories you want to send me, there are details in the description and we can change names, all that good stuff. There's going to be some archive footage playing, but really this is meant to be more something that you can listen to while you're doing chores or put on in the background there rather than staring at a screen. So this first one is from Martin, and he says, a few years ago, like 15 or 20 summers ago, I was going out for a nice bike ride early that morning. I had a 1994 Diamondback Outlook mountain bike, I believe it was. That was a nice bike and one I wish I still had. Yeah, I know what you mean. I had a Rally Apex back then and I wish I still had that bike. Anyway, I was in this neighbourhood that I'd never rode in, so I went exploring and I came to the top of a hill and seen that it ended in a cul-de-sac at the bottom of the hill. Now, for North American people, a cul-de-sac is like a dead-end street with like a turnaround and driveways leading up to the different houses. It looked like fun as it was a decent incline and fairly long, so there I went. Everything was going well until I got close to the bottom. I was going full speed when a bulldog spotted me and went on a charge straight for me. It was a time as well that the amount of bulldog attacks in the area for some reason was really high, so when I seen it coming I panicked. I was on the far left side of the road and the dog was coming from the right. In my panic I went straight into retreat mode and slammed the brakes to make a quick U-turn. However, instead of turning right into the U-turn, I turned left, and I was just about done with the U-turn, but it was really tight and not a lot of room between me and the curb. So I got turned around, but with being so close to the curb, there was a brick mailbox now that I was destined to hit. My right handlebar clipped the mailbox and I went over the handlebars and onto the pavement. I just laid there waiting to be mauled by the bulldog. Yeah, I can just imagine kind of lying in stunned pain on your back and waiting for this dog to start munching on your nuts. However, to my surprise, that did not happen. The dog even stopped barking. So I opened my eyes and seen the dog just staring at me, and it just turned around and went back to his home. I totally felt like the dog stopped and was probably like, what a loser, or thinking, man, that's just too easy and not worth my time. So that's it. It's not as good as your goose, but it's still good. I know, man, that's a pretty good story, and I'm glad that you walked away from it relatively unscathed. I had a mate, John his name was, in England, and he had this massive Rottweiler, and it was called Tyson, I think. This thing was huge and it drooled everywhere. It was kind of a bit like the one in the movie Turner and Hooch, although I know that one's not a Rottweiler. I usually walk to his place, but this time I'd taken my bike, and as I went into the driveway, Tyson just went nuts at me. And this was a dog that was usually like super chill, and it was a really powerful dog, so I was like really bricking myself. But as it turned out, it wasn't a bike or me, it was the combination of the two. And I think some dogs just don't like seeing people riding on bikes, and I don't know why. Maybe if there are any veterinary inclined viewers, they can elaborate on why that is. But it's a lesson that I've always remembered, and I keep it in mind when I'm riding on multi-user trails, and if I see a dog off leash, I slow down and I'm really very careful. And if the dog looks agitated, I quite often get off and push the bike, and I found that works. Like, the dog usually calms right down. And you also then have the option of putting the bike in between you and the dog, and I think I'd rather be on my feet than potentially pulled down off my bike. That's kind of my take really with dogs and bikes. Like, I've always showed respect to the dog and owner, and I've not run into any problems. The next one I got sent is from Mad B, but before I do start that one, if you're enjoying this, please leave me a like and consider subscribing. And if you have already, thanks. It makes a really huge difference and it's greatly appreciated. So anyway, this is from Mad B, and he says, I've been spreading the word about you, bro. I've mentioned you to a few e-bike people for when it comes to DIY e-bikes. I prefer mid-motors. I refuse to install a hub motor unless it's a 5,000 watt QS. Thanks for spreading the word. It's greatly appreciated. In terms of hubs, like, my view is that you can build a wicked cool bike with both hubs and mid-drives, but each to their own. I know we focus more on mid-drives here, but I do have some plans for a hub-based light electric vehicle. Anyway, I'm going to be reading the story. I bought an electric monster scooter first, but the police started giving me stress. The first 5 times the police didn't care. It was questioning me about the scooter. It was when they first came out. I actually said to the one copper the first time I was stopped, it does about 25 miles an hour, but I hardly do that as I'm still getting used to it. The scooter had 4 lights on the front. I had body armour on and a helmet, smart man, with a GoPro, and the police was actually brilliant. But then one day I got stopped by a cop who moaned, told me to walk it. If he'd seen me on it again, he was taking it off me. The same time an e-bike went past and I said, how come you ain't stopping him? And the copper said, it's got pedals. So I think the police in a lot of cases still don't have much of a clue about e-bikes. Like if it's been ridden responsibly and you're not looking like a danger and the bike looks sound, then most police officers are not going to want to waste time with you. Unless there's been like some big policy push for the area that you happen to be in. And the police, particularly in areas like UK, are extremely stretched for money and resources. And then they get given these government targets. And there are some people, causing problems with e-bikes and scooters and go and get X number of them to send a message. But rather than looking for people behaving badly on e-bikes or looking for obvious dangerous vehicles, the easiest option is just to go to a takeaway and start removing vehicles from delivery drivers. And that lets them seize like a whole bunch of vehicles in one go, and then they can get a nice news article showing that they did their job right. Except all they've done really is penalise low-paid workers who are just trying to make ends meet. And most delivery workers I've ever seen aren't taking stupid risks. They're trying to provide for their families or their education in many cases. And meanwhile, the people that are causing problems are ones that just ride away from police anyway. So the people causing a bad name for e-bikes and scooters are not the ones that are actually getting penalised in these operations. Anyway, continue. So I was forced to do an e-bike, but I'm not rich, not got much money, not to pay grants for e-bikes. So I then discovered the profound BBS HD, but ended up getting the BBS 02. Round my way, if you've got a rapid e-bike and the young heads find out, you might just become a target. I think he's talking about scallies, which is like groups of youth that hang out in large groups and basically look for an excuse to rob you and beat you. And they know they can't really be touched by the police because they're mostly underage, so they have this like carte blanche to make people's life a misery. I've even been told people drive around in a van. When they see an expensive bike, they will pull you off it. I've heard that a bit from London with people stealing like carbon road bikes, like people pushing them off it and then stealing them. It was mentioned because a friend said, make sure you put your GPS on it. Also, people are targeting bike stands and waiting for the opportunity. It is so bad now that we've all seen the vids of people just taking bikes while people film them. Yeah, it's a reason why I've not bought a motorbike. I live in a top floor flat. A bike outside would almost guarantee someone trying to take the thing. I think we should be allowed to put booby traps on the things. Imagine CS gas spraying in a thief's face from the handlebars at the press of a button on an app. I even mentioned to the local shops, why don't you, for example, install lockups for people to put the bikes in the store and then charge them like a small amount. Within a year, it'll be earning money. One of the main reasons people don't take their expensive bikes shopping is because there's nowhere safe to store the expensive bike. Yeah, I'd agree there. I think there's quite a lot of important things there. I hate bike thieves, so the idea of them getting their comeuppance appeals greatly. But much like a similar device I saw where it had a spike that went through the bike seat, like the chances of an innocent party being harmed are, I think, a little bit great here. I think there are better and easier ways to deter theft. The first for me would be making low-level crime like this a priority, because every study there's been from areas where low-level crime is addressed, they showed improvements in all levels of crime. I think infrastructure is key to this, and there's lots that can be done and has been done. We only really need to look at places like Holland and Copenhagen to see how mass usage of bikes and e-bikes can be enabled and copy things that they do. Integrated GPS tracking with police given some real authority to actually do something would have a huge impact, instead of which right now they sort of shrug their shoulders because they know they don't have the resources or the mandate in many places to do anything. Carry on, car parks are free and not everyone is able to get a car or even a license. I can't do my driving test because of complex PTSD I suffer with. That's tough, man. I even said to my local MP about putting mountain bike lockups in shops. and lock and key with security and a small charge. I'd pay £1 even. Imagine how many families got bikes and would go shopping using their bikes. But yeah, after discovering the BBS02, I got a Carrera Hellcat limited edition 29er and installed the motor after watching a few YouTube videos. I'm glad that I did, after reading the horror stories of people buying expensive e-bikes and then breaking them to have to send them back while being stuck without a bike. When you can install a motor yourself, you also learn how to fix the bike. I used to take my bikes apart and put them back together as a kid. The ride feels so much better and safer as you know all the parts are installed and triple checked. And when you install the motor and look back at your handiwork, you feel like a badass for a few minutes. I do want to do another Bafang build though, possibly an enduro frame, but I'm struggling to pay bills, let alone spend money on bike parts. Everything is double expensive right about now. The food prices are nuts, and when you're told by your doctor to go and eat healthy as you're in a sudden risk of death from heart problems, damn, that sucks, dude. I got a CT scan in January, which was cancelled 2 weeks ago because the CT scanner is broke. Great, but the NHS is doing its best with what they've got, I guess. Yeah, they are. Like, they work really, really hard, and they're kind of crippled by underfunding and mismanagement. But yeah, I'd be lost without my bike. Suffering with chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, public transport isn't ideal, as it causes a lot of stress, and with heart problems isn't what I'm looking for. Yeah, I've done public transport in the UK, and it can get pretty scary when you get a whole bunch of scallies getting on the bus. Like, it really can. Like, you don't know if they're going to kick off with you or anything really, and the bus driver's not going to do nothing. So the e-bike is important to me. It's why I can't just lock it up outside a shop, risking the stress of it getting stolen. Luckily, the few shops near me let me walk the bike around with me. After all, the bike is no longer than a trolley that people push in front of them. I'm not taking up any more space with my bike next to me. I don't see the issue walking a bike around a shop with a basket on the handlebar. I'm spending money in the place and I'm polite. I might add some e-bike vids myself soon. There's a few nice places I plan on going to. I'm thinking of doing some history stuff with the old churches in my area, some stunning buildings with a lot of history. Wales has some amazing spots when you look hard enough. Stay safe, bro. As always, happy e-biking. I think it's really cool that the local shops are letting you do that, because, I mean, if you've just been off-road and it's got mud everywhere, then maybe clean the wheels first. But I think really it's no different to the store's point of view to do this than if the shopping cart is wet or if shoes are wet. Right? It's not going to wear out the floor any more than the shopping trolleys, probably less. Now, if you're doing burnouts down the baking aisle, then maybe that's a little bit different. But yeah, thanks for sending this in. I'm really sorry to hear that you're having some health issues, and lots of really good points, because I think it illustrates what a lifeline having an e-bike can be when you're not able to get a car and public transport is limited and money is limited. I'd love to see some videos, and you're welcome to post stuff on Discord, especially if you do a new build. Love to see that. So I'm going to leave that one here. Huge thanks to the people that wrote in. Feel free to send in your stories, good and bad, and we can put them on the channel. It can be anything really. Maybe a big bike tour you went on, how you overcame an engineering challenge, burning down your shed. Like, it's all good. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.